What is up, everyone? I'm in the beautiful Playa del Carmen, and I'm here to do my year-end review and finish up my series on where my Ki Mobility wheelchair has taken me, so let's get into it. Over the last year, I have been trialing out my new Ki Mobility Rouge 2 wheelchair, and it has taken me places further than I've ever been able to go before. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about my mobility journey and how Ki Mobility became part of my story. Ki Mobility came into my life when I needed them the most, and I really wish I could have gone and spoke at conferences sooner so people could have learned my story and the things that I was forced to kind of endure those first few years after my accident, so they could understand how important mobility is to someone who doesn't have it anymore. And for those of you who don't know, I was in a catastrophic car accident about 4 years ago that left me an incomplete quadriplegic. It was kind of a horrific first few years after the accident because my insurance didn't need to treat me like I had a spinal cord injury. And I live in a bi-level home, so I was in a standard hospital wheelchair for about the first year after the accident. Then I was finally fitted for my first standard rigid wheelchair. However, again, I live in a bi-level, so when I got out of that hospital wheelchair, it was a rental, so I was left with one wheelchair. And if you have a spinal cord injury, you're always supposed to have a backup wheelchair just in case that other chair breaks or something, because how am I supposed to move around if I don't have legs or body, right? So I went and I started speaking at conferences because I wanted people to understand the gift of mobility and what a privilege it is to have that. I went and I spoke at a conference and I explained a little bit about my story, about how much my first wheelchair really meant to me and what it was able to give back to me. So the wheelchair, though it was great for my independence to be able to move around more safely in my own home and out in the world, it was so big for my house. It didn't fit through the doorways in my home because, again, my insurance didn't need to widen my doorways. They didn't need to make my home accessible or fully accessible. They did the bare minimum to make my house accessible. And that meant I got a stair lift and a standard commode at the time. And I lived in a hospital bed in the middle of my living room because I didn't fit anywhere else in my home. So for almost 2 full years, I lived in the middle of my living room, which, again, isn't great when you want to have guests and company over, but I digress. This wheelchair was so large, it didn't allow me to move around freely in my kitchen. Again, couldn't get to my bathroom independently or through the pocket doors from my bedroom to the bathroom, so I'd have to go up and all the way around. But what's more than that is only having one wheelchair was a huge safety risk, and that is because I had to use a stair lift to get up and down the flight of stairs to get to the main level of my house. So a bi-level, there's an entrance at ground level, and then you live up on a main kind of platform level. So I had a stair lift to get me up and down. However, only having one wheelchair, what was I to do when I got to the bottom of the stairs and there was no wheelchair there? And again, I don't have round-the-clock care all the time because I don't have endless money to pay for 24-hour support. So there was large sections of my day where I was just left alone. And if there was ever an emergency, I would have not been able to safely leave my home because I could not lift this 30-pound wheelchair over my head. At the time, I had like a 3-pound weight limit, so I couldn't lift this wheelchair over my head and carry it down the stairs on my stair lift. I'll show you some space here, what the stair lift area actually looks like. So there was no way I was getting that wheelchair down the stairs by myself. So if there was ever an emergency, there was no safe way for me to leave my home, and my insurance knew that. My insurance knew that there was no safe exit for me to leave my house, and then I was trapped in my house, essentially. I was a very active, outgoing person before that, and I was outside every chance I got. So I became a prisoner in my house because I couldn't just leave my house independently anymore. I couldn't just go outside and go for a walk when I wanted to. I couldn't just go outside in my driveway if I wanted to. And I started speaking at conferences a little over a year ago now, and a representative for Ki Mobility ended up being there. And much like everyone in the room, I think they were shocked to hear the conditions I was being forced to live in. And they stepped up in an unimaginable way, and I'm so grateful for them. They invited me to be part of their ambassador program, and from there, that is where my journey with Ki took off. I got fitted for my Rouge 2 wheelchair, and during the fitting process, I got to pick out my colors, so I picked black and pink because honestly, that's one thing you don't really realize, that your wheelchair has to fit both your personality, your style, and obviously my clothing. I wear a lot of black clothes, so I picked something that was going to be neutral to my style and my personality overall. So I went with the pink and black color. Now they have tons of other customizations for wheelchairs and different colors you can pick, which is really awesome. I still would have picked these same colors, but if you're in the wheelchair market, there's a ton of colors for you to pick from now. And yeah, so I just waited a little bit and then I got my wheelchair. And over the last year, like I said, I've been showing you guys all the things I've been able to do. I find it to be much lighter than my other wheelchair. And because it was so much lighter, it just became my everyday wheelchair. It's the wheelchair I use in my house. Because it's got such a smaller footprint, I am able to get through the pocket doors of my house. I'm able to move around in my bathroom more independently to get ready better. I am able to go in the kitchen and actually help prep my meals and help with cooking, and just going to get my own snacks was a huge thing. And this wheelchair has been to more places than I have ever been before, and it has become my travel wheelchair again because of the overall footprint. It is much smaller. It breaks down a lot smaller than my other wheelchair, and it is much lighter for any of my caregivers to be able to carry around. Again, the weight to this chair is a huge factor of that, because when I'm traveling, there's often people who drive cabs and stuff like that that aren't comfortable picking up big heavy wheelchairs. So I just let them know, just pick it up by the wheels. You can judge the weight, but it is very light. You'll just be able to put it in the back seat of the SUV or the trunk or wherever we are. And it's never been a problem because it's so light. So it became my travel wheelchair. I've also been able to break down this wheelchair and store the frame in the cabin of some airplanes. Which has been really nice, because if you're a wheelchair user, you know wheelchairs are always getting damaged in flight. I'm just going to show some other pictures here. This is like some conditions of my other wheelchair. Because it was a little bit heavier, I think people thought that it could handle a punch a little bit more than it really could. So I've had my other wheelchair critically damaged on travel before. Another tractor, one second. So then I started going places again, and I've taken this chair to the beach. I've taken this chair on flights, to conferences. It has been, like I said, kind of all over the world with me so far. And everywhere I go, I'm always getting compliments on it. One, because of the color, and because it's got a really sleek design. It's also incredibly easy for me to move around because of the weight it is. So at the end of a long beach day, I'm incredibly tired, but I have no problems getting myself to and from my room wherever I need to go, and even make it through the sand a little bit. So I'm going to show you guys right away here at the resort I'm currently staying at. There's a small walkway from the boardwalk to the first bed here, and I'm able to get to that spot by myself. It does take a little bit of work, but I still am able to do it by myself. And as someone who really values a sunrise and being able to do those things by myself, like, that little bit of independence really does so much for your mental health. For me, the comfort of this chair is a huge thing. Obviously, I'm in it for most of my day, so I had to have a custom backrest made because of my level of injury. It just helps me support myself a little bit more. And I had custom seating done, again, all of which can fit to my Ki chair, which is really nice. So cost is a huge factor when it comes to mobility equipment. Even as a nurse, I had no idea how much mobility equipment cost, and it's astronomical. Again, I am blessed because I'm an ambassador for this company. So this wheelchair came to me as a gift as part of the ambassador program. But my other wheelchair was very, very expensive. And to be quite frank, for a chair that was that much more expensive, this chair is so much more cost effective, and it outperforms my other wheelchair. And it's not just saying that. I always give honest reviews. So I think sometimes companies, I tell them right away, I'm going to give you a very honest review of these products. So just be mindful of that. They didn't mind. They said, tell us exactly what you think about this wheelchair. And it's much lighter. I had a lot more customization with this wheelchair. The functionality is exactly the same. It travels better. Overall, I'm always recommending this wheelchair before any of my other ones. Again, I don't have a lot of wheelchair experience. I have a few trial wheelchairs under my belt and one actual other wheelchair. But this is the one I'm always recommending to people. I just think that this has been such a great wheelchair, both for functionality of my life, my independence, and again, it gave me back a little bit of freedom. Not a little bit of freedom, it gave me back a lot of freedom, which really just improved my mental health and how I was able to view the world and explore the world again as a wheelchair user. So I am so grateful for the gift of mobility and what Ki Mobility was able to give back to me. But yes, we're going to run a little montage here of all the things I've been able to do with my wheelchair. If you have any questions or anything, I will link all of Ki Mobility stuff down below, the make and model of my wheelchair, the colors I picked. If you have any questions, reach out to me, but I strongly suggest you reach out to Ki Mobility because I'm sure they will be able to answer you a lot more questions than I will be able to. But thank you guys for being here on this journey with me, for traveling with me, and seeing all the places my Ki has taken me.